In other words, they gaslight you constantly, reframing, rewriting, and reorganizing events to try and convince you that they're innocent and being victimized, and that you're the dishonest person persecuting them. I'm telling you, English people are the most dishonest people I've ever interacted with, and, turns out, the most dishonest people in the world. 1/5 of the world's population. And you think they achieve that with kindness, diplomacy, and compassion? Coming from a man who spent 40 years studying civilizations around the world and all their atrocities and hardships, for him to say that what England did to India was the greatest crime in all history really adds to the solemnity of that statement. There is something different about that, and I'm convinced it's a genetic problem. Now, if, in some alternate reality, I quit teaching because the foreign kids were a nightmare, and the English kids were always so well-behaved, moral, articulate, and valued their education, I guarantee you this video would reflect that. But that's just not the reality. English kids can't even speak English in some cases.
She's even been saying yeah, but no, but she didn't even say nothing. She's going for a hard time right now. My boyfriend said she's cheating on her with my best friend. I can't believe that she did it. She's so horrible. She could go kill herself tonight. That'd be all on you, yeah?
Yeah, best not to move to the UK. Take it from me. And additionally, you can't even blame social media, because another fly on the wall style show, similar to the educating series I've been showing you, called That'll Teach 'Em, is up to 21 years old, airing its first season in 2003. And what do you know? The students there show the same behaviour as now.
Modern teenagers are a pretty useless bunch. But in the 1960s, it was a different story, as these 30 kids are about to find out. They volunteered to go back to school exactly as it was 40 years ago, to experience vocational education in the not-so-swinging 60s. It doesn't take the boys long to get up to mischief, with the remains of a dead bird they've found in the fireplace.
Boy, you want my bird? It kills. I think you dropped your feet.
Hi, I'm Sophia and this is my school. It may look beautiful, but believe me, it is the biggest waste of time ever. I'm a teacher's worst nightmare, that's to put it simply. I'm rude and I don't work and I don't do my homework. If they do something to me or say something that I don't like, I'll be like, shut up, so you sound like a bitch, you know you're wrong.
If she feels that she's being wronged in some way, then she's not the sort of student who'll, take it.
No, what was it? I said, shut up, rot in hell.
Stand up. I'm not happy with your efforts, with your work. I want you to do this again, and I want you to write it out much more neatly, and I want you to answer some of the questions properly.
Why am I going to do it again?
Because I've asked you to,
I've already
Peters.
done it.
Do it again.
I've already done it.
Do it again.
Why isn't everyone else doing it again?
Because they were not asleep during my music test. Get on with it.
Who was asleep? I wasn't asleep. So you don't even know what's going on.
I'm not having every rehearsal like this because it will kill me.
Good.
The reason I get into more trouble is because I answer back and I don't take criticism. But I think that's quality.
She's hard to teach anything because she knows how to do it anyway, so why should she listen to other people?
Holly makes a bid for freedom. Most of her schoolmates decide to follow suit.
Go back! Go back! Go back! Back!
But the gates are locked, and Holly is left with nowhere to run.
Put your hand down. How are we meant to earn, good things if we were really well behaved in lots of our lessons today? And this is us being quite bad, we have to admit, we know we're being naughty, but in food, in home economics or whatever it's called, yeah?
Will you get out and be silent?
I'm going home because I can't stand the 60s, I can't stand the teachers, I can't stand the discipline. I prefer to be back at my old school. And all the teachers will us there. I really am just going to have to leave.
Do you think I'm bluffing?
I'm not bluffing or laughing. What did you say?
Bluffing.
What about?
That I will not just exclude you from this activity and children prep. The constant giggling, the interrupting.
Pardon?
I beg your pardon?
Pardon?
Would you go outside, please? You knew that I addressed that last speech to you without naming you specifically because we had eye contact the whole time I was doing it.
But it wasn't just me, that's the thing.
You were taller than the rest of the group.
No, I'm not taller than the rest of the group, miss. Jefford, he's as tall as me.
Well, you were the one
No,
who
no, miss!
How dare you speak to me like that? Turn around!
But Luke Mills has got his own problems. After pretending he forgot to hand in his mobile phone, he's been summoned to see the headmaster.
I don't think there is a smidgen, an iota, a kernel of truth in what you've said. Can I have the truth, please, Mills?
Yes, sir. When we arrived, I took out my phone in full intention to use my mobile phone.
Thank you, Mills. Thank you very much indeed. Good, that's what I wanted to hear. You've basically been dishonest.
Oh, for goodness sake.
I don't know the words, sir.
We have just rehearsed this for the last 35 minutes.
Yeah?
And you still do not know the words.
No, sir, I don't.
You are stupid. Go and sit down.
That's the year MySpace was launched. 1 year before Facebook existed.
2 years before YouTube existed.
3 years before Twitter existed. 4 years before the smartphone existed. 7 years before Instagram existed. 8 years before Snapchat existed. And 13 years before TikTok existed. So you can't blame social media. Which means I've got no other explanation other than genetics.
These white men are dangerous. No one is to go near them.
English people are as genetically predisposed to be rude, disrespectful, dishonest, and violent as the Canadians are genetically predisposed to apologize and be kind. Maybe there's nothing in the water. Maybe it's in the blood. Which aligns with articles like this. UK youth's top European bad behaviour league. When it comes to behaving badly, British teenagers are the best in Europe, according to a report by the Institute of Public Policy Research. The IPPR, which gathered together several studies carried over the past few years, reported that the UK's youth either topped the league tables or came close to the top when it came to drugs, drink, violence, and promiscuity. Out-of-control British teens the worst behaved in Europe. British teenagers are the worst behaved in Europe, a report has revealed. They are more likely to binge drink, take drugs, have sex at a young age, and start fights. The worst behaved pupils in the world? You better believe it. A study says schools are even more anarchic than we thought, the shocking testimony of a once idealist young teacher. Worse, bad behavior was actually rewarded. One boy was notorious. He came to lessons only as he pleased, swore at teachers, and was an unaccomplished playground bully. At the end of the year prize giving, I was surprised to hear his name announced. He had collected one of the largest numbers of reward stickers in his year. Many teachers, it turned out, had taken to bribing him with stickers in a desperate attempt to calm his unruliness. As the school applauded his name, I thought of the dozens of his classmates who had had a year of learning ruined by this one boy. It's official, England are, statistically, amongst the worst behaved teams in world cricket. No team has breached the ICC Code of Conduct more often in the last 3 years than England, according to the ICC website. Staff at Oasis Academy on Isle of Sheppey to meet with trust after strikes over pupil behaviour. Representatives of teachers who went on strike over violent abuse from pupils will be meeting with school trust to try and come to an agreement over behaviour measures. Dozens of teachers went on strike yesterday amid claims their safety is being put at risk by a lack of action against violence from children. One teacher told Kent Online they face daily abuse, including racial slurs and threats of violence, sexual assault, and death. Members of staff are off with stress because they've been physically assaulted, she said. We have the N-word used on a regular basis to our black teachers. We have chairs thrown. I myself have been threatened with death on numerous occasions. A particular student told me he was going to cut my throat. Teachers have been pushed and shoved.
Not respectful! Not safe! Not ready! Not respectful! Not safe! Not ready! Not respectful! Not safe! What do we want? Safe schools! What do we want? Safe schools! What do we want? Safe schools!
Teachers strike over being abused in class by pupils. Teachers are striking at a high school where a union says there have been more than 50 serious incidents of verbal and physical abuse since September. Ofsted chief says teachers are hiding in classrooms and being blocked from student-only corridors. Ofsted's new chief has said that behaviour in some schools is so bad that teachers have taken to locking themselves in classrooms at lunchtime for their own safety.
What the heck?
Sir Martin Oliver, who took over the role on New Year's Day, had said that the new leader of One Academy Trust was told during an inspection that one corridor belonged to the students and was a no-go area for staff. In a BBC article published on the 28th of March 2024, we read, "Pupil behaviour getting worse at schools in England, says teachers." Nearly 1 in 5 teachers in England have been hit by a pupil this year, a survey commissioned by the BBC says. One teacher told BBC News, behaviour was a never-ending battle. Another said spitting, swearing and chair throwing were among the things that happen often. Supply teacher Lorraine Mee said sometimes people as young as 6 are throwing chairs. She says she's seen nursery and reception age children spitting and swearing, with the worst behaviour from 5 to 6-year-olds, with dangerous tendencies like throwing chairs. On one occasion, the computer science teacher said he had to pull pupils apart after they began throwing punches at one another. The room got absolutely ransacked, he says. Remember, the displays were ripped off the wall. On one occasion, a pupil who had been sent out of class tried to break back into the room with a cricket bat, he said. In the teacher TAP survey, the BBC also found 30% of all teachers said they had witnessed pupils fighting during the week they responded to the questions. 2 in 5 respondents said they had witnessed aggressively violent behaviour that needed an intervention in a single week. 15% of secondary teachers said they had experienced sexual harassment from a pupil when working at school. Deborah D. Moucham from the Head Teachers Union says teachers have been left shaken, frightened and isolated by abuse from parents. 1 in 5 respondents to the BBC survey said they had experienced online abuse from a parent or guardian since September. A similar number said they had experienced verbal abuse. It can be face-to-face, on the telephone, on social media. Enough is enough, says Deborah de Mishkamp, a regional NAHT secretary who runs 3 primary schools in North East England. Teacher awarded £150,000 after being assaulted by a pupil in school. He was left with injuries to his face, mouth and head after being punched and headbutted by a student. It must be a genetic problem. This has to be genetic.
I'll jump on his head, fam. Do you understand? Do not... Yeah, of course it'll melt right away.
I swear, if when the next I'm gonna come escalate us, you'll make
an axe, fam. I'm gonna cut you up. Bro, I
come back here. I'm gonna fucking slash you up, like you little cunt. How old are you? Why are you fucking laughing at all?
How old are you? You're about 80-year-old.
Some of you might think they're just teenagers. It's not a genetic problem, it's a maturity problem. At least when they grow up, they're all mature and behave, becoming adjusted members of the public. No. They just become a global nuisance, and everyone agrees.
Expedia is one of the travel companies. They did a survey in 2002, and the British were voted the worst tourists in the world.
Yes! Number 1! In your face, Europe!
Britain make the worst tourist. According to a recent survey, British tourists are the worst, and Germans are the best. Have a nice day Americans are the most polite, outcharming Germans and Japanese. Britons are judged to be the rudest. Germans rank highest for attempting to speak the local language, followed by the French and Americans. The British make the least effort, preferring to simply talk louder in English. The table shows the final positions of the countries. Top and bottom ranking countries in each category were given positive and negative scores respectively. Germany is in the lead with 41 positive points, and dead last are the British with negative 44 points. Why it seems like everyone hates the English abroad. But hotelier Ajay Goyal, founder of the Zenning Resorts in Cyprus, tells CNN that the English are hated a lot, even in countries where there wouldn't be any economy without them. Psychotherapist Andy Cotton tries to offer some insight into why everyone hates the English. We haven't really established an identity since the loss of empire. There's confusion. Are we European, English, British, from the UK? So we tend to follow a very primitive concept of splitting, where we split off parts of ourselves that are unbearable to us and imagine that others are displaying them. I would call that a lack of self-awareness. We can't recognize our flaws as easily as we should. The idea, propagated during the empire, that we were supposed to be a superior race is embarrassing, and that brings us shame, which brings bad behavior. Putting on an English shirt seems to be a kind of protection or uniform that says, I'm allowed to be a hooligan, to get drunk, because I can't really look in the mirror and accept that I'm a drunken, violent, frequently racist and xenophobic person. Rather than accept I have difficulty accepting others, I lash out and use any receptacle to project the bad parts of myself into. Unfortunately, they hide that embarrassment by being loud and obnoxious and drinking themselves into oblivion. Insightful. So the takeaway is that according to everyone else, the British are the worst tourists in the world, with the Germans being the best. But when this question is posed to the British themselves, who do you think they said were the worst tourists? The British.
Ooh, self-burn. Those are rare.
British tourists ranked among the worst behaved in the world by the Brits. A large-scale global survey by YouGov, polling nearly 28,000 people from 26 countries, has found that Britons have the world's most negative view of their own tourists and believe that the rest of the world agrees.
Coming to Amsterdam for a messy night? Stay away. That's the message the Dutch capital has for British tourists. A newly launched campaign wants to discourage young British men planning drug and alcohol-fuelled parties.
I think on this street the British people keep the place alight. They keep the ladies busy, they keep the bars busy, they keep all the businesses down here busy. So I would say we play a big part of the economy here, you know, and we're not the only nationality that comes down this street and causes problems.
Yeah, like, I didn't even do nothing, but like, why are you talking about other people, huh? Like, I don't see like Americans around here. You ain't even say nothing to them. Why is it always me? It's always being picked on. I didn't even do nothing this time, and you ain't picking on me for no reason, aren't you? Gosh, it's not fair, innit?
While the Venice of the North attracts some 20 million tourists every year, it has long tried to curb rowdy behaviour seen at stag parties, especially near the famed red light district where sex workers operate. Prospective clientele will now be subject to signage, emphasising the consequences of antisocial behaviour and excessive use of drugs and alcohol, which include fines, arrests and, in some cases, hospitalisation.
Now, please spare a thought for Spain, favourite tourist spot for the British. Spain brings a new daily charge for UK tourists heading there on holiday.
Apparently being encouraged not to go on holiday.
What?
Spain.
Oh.
They don't want them anymore. So they've been putting up signs, fake signs on beaches, saying things like, there's cliff falls, there's jellyfish, there's all sorts of terrible things. Don't go on the beach, you know, riptide, this, that and the other.
Yeah.
But they're all fake signs because they don't want British people, in particular, and foreigners in general, to go. They're popped up in Mallorca and Calamuta.
Spanish people have a secret code word for Brits, and it's not a compliment. A guri is also characterised as a naive and or ignorant person, trapped in their own culture due to refusal or inability to integrate. They will dress wrong, be sunburned, and generally look hot and bothered. I wonder what connects all these people. But back to schools. Some of you might be thinking, what about the parents? Well, they carry the same genetics, so the parents are just like the kids, but older. Head teachers in England tell of worsening behaviour of pupils and parents. Whereas once a parent who was called into a school to discuss a behaviour issue would be unquestionably supporting the teacher's position, head teachers said they were now seeing parents side with their child in defiance of the school, while others organise and take to social media to challenge school decision. Behaviour's got worse, but what we don't get is any support from the parents, said one head of a secondary school in the Midlands, who did not want to be named. They don't want their children being sanctioned. They question more than they support. It's reached such levels that schools demand national campaign against abusive parents, with more than a third of school staff reporting receiving verbal abuse from parents. English parents live by, my child didn't do it, you never saw them do it, you can't prove they did it, and even if you can, they still didn't do it. So like, whatever. So naturally, with parent support, English pupils are among the worst behaved in the world. Even top-rated schools are blighted by classroom chaos, study says. Professor Hayden suggests the poor behaviour may partly explain the superior performance of countries such as China and Japan in international school tests. It has to be genetics. And how poorly they perform in tests compared to other nations isn't just attributed to their horrible behaviour. English people have a complete lack of appreciation for their education, and it drives their need to throw in as many obstacles in their way to avoid doing any work and accomplishing anything.
An extreme environment is somewhere like Antarctica, where the weather, the climate is extreme. So Antarctica is obviously very, very cold. Mitchell? Hello?
What?
I'm trying to teach a class. Eugene, you need to take them out. Take your earphones out. Right, at the minute, you're not having your earphones in for this moment in time. I'm teaching this lesson. Show some respect, please. Keep your earphones out, Mitchell. Do I need to send sent out?
Yeah.
So you don't want to be here at all?
No.
How rude is that? I'm trying to be nice
Really
to you.
don't care.
Benny, where are you wandering around?
always end up in the corridor, so I just think I'll just walk around for a bit. Then, obviously, a teacher hide from them, and then walk around again, and see another teacher hide from them. Yeah. And then I'm having a conversation with another teacher. So I come here to get a drink.
When are you going to ever need Pythagoras in your life? Or how to know what a right angle triangle is? Like, for music, you got YouTube. For geography, you got a globe. For maths, you got calculators. Then, for drama, you just got life. Or you got soaps. Do you get me?
Why do you never get a service in this school? Oh, I'm coming home and I'm never ever coming in this school again. So you can tell the teachers, just shove it up their arse.
Some of you, Emily. Emily?
I can't throw it. No. You came in like a wreck.
Boys, thank you.
Sorry, miss.
You said English is crap.
We just keep doing the same stuff.
But you still can't do it.
I know.
Luke is struggling to even start his paper.
Come on, Luke. Come on, have a go. Come on, buddy.
Because I'd rather not try and fail than try and fail.
No, don't be silly. Don't be silly. If you get at least a grade when you come for a job, you might even get a G.
I ain't even revise for this.
15 minutes left of the lesson and all we've wrote is my speech.
Quite a lot of our students' attendance is poor. We do have some who refuse to come to school. So our priority as a team is to make sure they're in school every day, they're ready to learn.
Morning, Mia. You ready?
So one of our jobs is to go and knock on the door, say, come on, get out of bed. I've been in many kids' bedrooms getting them out of bed, part of the job.
It's only 3 days into term, and so far Jack's missed a third of his lessons.
Divide by a common factor. What number goes into 18 and 40? 2. I'm going to put a whole bunch up here. This is going to help you with your times tables, your dividing, and lowest terms, okay?
I'm not wasting my time with maths. There's no bloody point in it. I am never going to need to use maths.
There's no point in being in this lesson, to be honest with you.
Right, Courtney, get out. I'm sick of you already. Go.
I want a word with you. Yeah, I'm here. I'm not happy. What is this? Facebook or whatever. That, no.
Is my BTEC sport work?
It certainly isn't.
It is, me.
My eyesight's bad, but it's not that bad. This only works because there's a level of trust.
Oh, sorry, me.
That's all right. Oh, Vinny, you're doing it again.
It up and it keeps doing it, look.
After break, we start again. Promise. Hang on. You have seriously let me down. What? I asked you so politely not to do that, Vinny.
Alright, move your ass going to school with me.
Sir, you're really not going to change my mind?
No, but let me just talk to you.
No point whatsoever.
Well, just come and talk. Right, come in here a minute.
Today, she's decided she wants to leave school for good.
Cody, listen, you really, really, really need to think this through.
And I actually do want to leave.
Yeah, but why throw it away at this last stage?
Because I come in school to get all the time.
OK. And who gives you the shit?
It's either teachers or people in my year that I don't get on with.
You're in for a maths GCSE exam, and you're then being rude and abusive.
It reminds me of Jesse Enkamp attempting to prove that Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu doesn't work by competing in a tournament and refusing to lay down, and instead just standing up.
I think Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu only works if you play along with it. And to prove my point,
I'm going to enter a tournament on the street and simply stand up.
And just like that, I proved my point. Because no matter what martial art we practice, it's important that we don't lose sight of its original purpose.
If he would have just stood up, that would never have happened.
That's what it's like to teach in England. You want to teach, and if that demands that students sit down, English students will just stand up to create that obstacle. And much of those obstacles will involve their pen. They'll break and destroy their pens like nothing I've ever seen. They are so committed to not learn, they'll destroy, disassemble, and reassemble pens just to either not have something to write with or to make their pens explode.
Right, lowest terms. So I'm not having it.
What?
You're not doing any work again.
I don't have a pen.
Until you decide to do work in this lesson, you're going to be isolated with Mr. Westwood or somebody.
I've got a pen now.
You have to write in your book. If you do not write in your book, you will not be in this lesson.
Every time I went to work and stood before a class full of English people, I could expect misbehavior, dishonesty, destruction of property, kleptomania, no accountability, extreme rudeness, and a desperate need not to learn. They are just full of excuses to avoid getting an education. They can't do work because they feel hot, they feel cold, they feel sick, their head hurts, their tummy hurts, they don't feel well, they've got energy, they've got no energy, they can't focus. It just goes on and on and on. They will literally jump through hoops just to avoid doing any work, which is a disaster and a shame because guess who are the dumbest students I have ever taught? English kids.
Let's just clarify one fact in life. Don't think just because you live in Wales, the sun doesn't come up. Because I actually had a year 11 once that said the sun hasn't come up today because I can't see it. So it's important to clear this up in year 7. The sun rises every single day. That's the only reason night becomes day.
The school's deputy heads are meeting with Mr. Povey to discuss the first wave of exam results.
I mean, how bad are they? I mean, if we're talking mocks and bad, like how
I'll be honest,
bad?
it's not looking great, I'll be honest. It does seem to be much more like the lower grades, and it's a mixture of U's, 1s, 2s,
Okay.
so it is obviously pretty poor.
It's looking like 5 or 6%, which is just... It's as bad as we've ever seen.
Worst that I've ever seen. Some of the kids are actually saying they don't care at the minute. That's where their heads are at. They see it as pointless. They've had the mocks and some of them are seeing it now as like they need a rest, which is probably the opposite of what they need at the minute. They don't understand what it is to have to sit for 2 hours and write at length in a you know, good way.
No punctuation, no capital letters, handwriting bad. We're looking at single figures in terms of 5 GCSEs, 4 and above, and C and above, which means that less than 10% of our kids, if those results become reality, are going to be able to go on to the college courses that we'd want them to have. Quite simply, that is not good enough.
Right, want to go through this? Leah, this way a minute.
There are some people in my class that are a little bit, like, silly, and I'm just kind of looking at them with the corner of my eye going, why don't you just shut up? Just let us learn, for God's sake. Because they're the more popular people, you can't really say anything to them because you'll get a whole gang of people on your back then. You'd be like, oh.
I'm not touching the walls. Sperm just come out of me though, does it?
No.
No.
You got an egg. Yeah. We don't have sperm. They have sperm, we have an egg.
I know that, that's what I'm trying to say, isn't it?
Yeah, but there's our egg ain't a sperm.
So I'm left with x on this side, and 12 divided by 3? 12 divided by 3 is... Three times table. 3, 6, 9, 12, 4.
If
Books, come on guys, hurry up. RJ.
Jeb, this only works. Jeb, please don't do that. Jeb, please don't do that.
It don't matter. I'm not hurting no one.
You are.
Who am I hurting?
Yourself.
We know diameter is circumference divided by pi.
What is pi?
10.
Where did it come from? I don't have all the numbers at the bottom.
These ones here?
Yeah.
Well, they're letters, not numbers.
Same place.
So do you know what I just need to like revise?
Yeah.
Then things what are like things.
Things are like things.
So, is anyone making you go to film club?
No.
Are you being forced to go to film club?
No.
So if you decide you don't like the film, should you fast forward it or should you just leave? So what do I think you should do now?
Leave.
Go home.
Yay!
What's the capital city of Kenya? It's in your book, it's on the map. Begins with an N.
Narnia.
It's not Narnia. Capital city of Kenya, and Shannon says Narnia. Nice.
Awful. I got 0, 0, 0. G, G, D, U, G.
What did you get?
Got a 1. Best staying in there.
You know, when Braveheart, that's actually set on William the Conqueror. It's just sicko because he literally gets his head decaffeinated. He just literally, his head just...
Decapitated.
Yeah, that's it.
Not decaffeinated, that's a type of coffee.
Oh yeah, decaffeinated.
Carla's drinking Guinness tonight because it's proper good for your baby.
Guinness?
Guinness.
How is it good for your baby?
Guinness is really good for your baby.
How?
Don't ask me. Miss, how's Guinness good for your baby?
It's not.
Yeah, it is. Proper good for your baby. Really, really good for your baby.
What?
Guinness drink beer.
You're not supposed to drink while you're pregnant.
You're allowed to drink Guinness. It's Guinness. It's really nice. Really good.
From what I found, English kids cannot, or at least really struggle, to generate an original thought. It's actually amazing. You can sometimes get them to think about things in a new way or maybe jump to the right conclusion. But more often than not, you're going to hit a wall called English intelligence. Like, I love using analogies in my lessons. They work really well. If I can find something they already know that follows the same geographic principle, I could just build and substitute parts of the analogy until the kid thinks, oh, it's like that, but over there. They're great for teaching, but analogies don't really work as good on English people. It seems like that part of their brain is just weak and underdeveloped. It's a challenge, man. It's a real challenge teaching in England, having to deal with the English brain. Teaching in England doesn't resemble teaching in other countries. Even routines are next to impossible to get English kids to learn. When it's time to pack up, every lesson I use the same routine. Close your books, put them in a pile on your desk, stand up and tuck your chair in. When you're all standing quietly, I'll dismiss you. I had some classes for over a year in my last school, and even after all that practice, they still didn't get it, and they would never have gotten it. They don't learn from patterns like the rest of us. They have no common sense. Their brains don't process that kind of information. Now, not all English students are dumb and don't value their education. There are genuinely clever ones out there.
Corey.
10% of 120 is 12. U trouble has 36. Half of 12 is 6. Add that on, 42.
But give that a term teaching in England. You'll find this is more likely what you'll associate with English kids.
Linda, a Year 8 girl in Mr. Sage's house, is stuck on a maths problem.
What was it? 99 plus 10.
99 plus 10.
That's 190, yeah?
I gotta see this.
Now what? You takes the 9, swaps it over, and it makes 190.
The maths police would come and arrest you.
No, you wouldn't.
They would.
I'll punch him.
Life imprisonment, no parole.
It's not 190.
Who's your maths teacher?
Mr. Hennessy.
I'll go and sack him straight away.
Oh,
through maths with Lyndon, and I know you're a teacher. Now, on simple sum is 99 add on 10.
It's 190, tell him.
What's 0 add 9?
9.
What's 1 add 9?
10.
I know you can read that answer. What's the answer?
109.
So we've just proved it.
But it's not because...
Well, this is ridiculous.
So that's meant to be 199.
Okay. Now, in the next 6 weeks, I'm going to try and cram as much knowledge into your brains as is humanly possible. Or as space will allow.
Now, you'd think that if they're that dumb, at least their parents would value their education. But they don't. 1 in 5 children regularly misses school, figures show. And the overall lack of value for their education is so poor that parents in England no longer see daily school attendance as vital, report finds. Parents in England no longer subscribe to the view that their children need to be in school full-time, according to new research which says there has been a seismic shift in attitudes to attendance since the pandemic. Overall, absence in school in England has risen more than 50% since 2019, while persistent absence, when pupils miss 10% or more of sessions, has more than doubled, prompting widespread concern and a range of interventions by ministers. Public First, a policy research, opinion and strategy consultancy, completed a study on how parents view attendance in England. Parents don't believe children must be in school every day anymore. Researchers spoke of 8 focus groups comprised of parents of school-aged children across 8 different locations in England in June and July this year. A mother of 2 primary school-aged children from Manchester said, "Pre-COVID, I was very much about getting the kids into school. You know, attendance was a big thing. Education was a major thing. After COVID, I'm not going to lie to you. My take on attendance and absence now is like, I don't really care anymore. Life's too short." Meanwhile, one mother of a 15-year-old from Bristol said they used to go skiing in February half-term. But now she wonders why she didn't just opt for a cheaper week in January. Which is why you hear stories about English parents going to the news and claiming victimhood and whining about receiving fines for keeping their kids from school and hurting their education by taking them on holiday during term time.
So we're off on holiday soon for a few days, and I needed to let the school know that the children weren't going to be there. So I gave them a call and they asked me to bring down a letter explaining why I felt it necessary to take the children out of school during term time. So I wrote the letter.
We are off on holiday abroad, and we are going in term time because it's cheaper. Thank you. Rachel, regarding Brayden and Ileana.
And I dropped it off at 8 o'clock this morning. Needless to say, I had a phone call by 9 o'clock from the attendance lady at the school asking to discuss said letter. I mean, I could tell by the tone of her voice she wasn't best impressed. But in all honesty, what else was I supposed to say? Let's face it, school holidays cost a fortune to go abroad, don't it? It's like double the price. And to be honest, I wasn't going to lie about it. My daughter's gob's the size of the Grand Canyon. It was going to come out anyway.
It's now 2 years since John Platt took his daughter on a 1-week holiday during term time. Since then, he's been fighting legal battles against the £120 fine he received. But today, judges at the Supreme Court ruled against him, saying he'd acted unlawfully. Outside court, John Platt described the decision as shocking.
To attend regularly no longer means to attend frequently. It now means to attend on all the days and at all the times that the school requires it. The issue is no longer, if ever it was, about term time holidays. It is about the state taking the rights of parents away when it comes to making decisions about their children.
And like other parents are taking their kids out, it's not just me. I didn't even do nothing. It's them schools and teachers. They're all picking on me for no reason. It's my kid. I've got the right to do whatever I want. If I want to take me out of school, I can do it. But these schools, they're picking on me for no reason. I didn't even do nothing.
Hey, so today is the day I got my letters through from Lancashire County Council. So they are basically, it's our school fines. So we took our children to Egypt and the kids missed 8 days of school. Naughty, naughty. The school did say that we would get a fine and it has actually come through. So it basically says, you are the parent of my child's name, date of birth, who lives at my address and is registered pupil at this school. I have been notified that between the 19th of February and the 28th of February, the pupil failed to attend regularly at the school. This notice gives you the opportunity to pay a fine instead of being prosecuted. The amount is £60/120 in accordance to the table over leave. If you pay this fine within the time limit set out, no further action will be taken against you in connection with the offence. Sounds awful, doesn't it, the offence? And you will avoid getting a criminal record. A criminal record for taking your kids on holiday. Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. So the time scale is, if I pay within 21 days, so before the 10th of April, I have to pay £60. And within 28 days, which brings it up to the 17th of April, it's £120. So I've got two letters. The other letter is exactly the same, but obviously my other child's name. And my husband's got two letters as well. So it's £60 per child, so that's £120 technically from me for my kids, and then £120 from the husband, but obviously we're together anyway. So yeah, 240 quid. £240 for an all-inclusive holiday for 2 weeks in the sun. And we definitely save £240 then going into school holidays. So it's still a win-win to me. Yeah, I'll be paying the fine and whatever.
Parents in England should not take their children out of school in term time and will face consequences if they do. This is what the new Education Secretary, Bridget Phillipson, has told the BBC.
Some families say they would rather accept the fines than pay thousands of pounds extra for holiday.
Our reporter, Dan O'Donoghue, has been talking to Laura Melling. Now, Laura saved £3,000 by taking her daughters on holiday during term time.
It was £60 per parent per child, so it was £120 each child. Me and my husband both got a letter each, and it said that if we didn't pay it within 60 days, it'd be an offence against our names.
Right, morning. So some of you may remember I got a fine for taking my son out of school. So I'm here to pay this fine, £60, twos and ones. I'm going to suspend attendance support allowance fine. Take your son out of school. Right, I'll see you in a bit. £60. Bye-bye. You can pass that on to me. Thank you very much. Thank you. See ya. And that's how you pay a fine.
With the dumbest of these parents responding to the fines by giving their own fines to teachers for going on strike and keeping their kids from school and hurting their education.
I'm Wesley Joyce from Worcester. We went to Turkey and it was my daughter's 18th birthday. On the 4th day we were there. No children had exams. None of our children anyway. Came back 2 weeks later to 4 letters on the doorstep. Finding me for taking my children on holiday. Then 2 weeks later, the teachers had 2 strike days, a teacher education day, but they didn't get fined.
If schools are the pulse of a country, England has flatlined. How do you teach people who, as a family unit, could not care less about their education? Fines for unauthorised absence from school in England to rise by 33%. They are actively against getting any sort of education. In the UK, there is a great initiative of changing unused phone boxes across the country into public libraries. A genuinely good idea that promotes reading and a sense of community, and it's maintained by the public. Beautiful idea, right? Maybe. But here in England, don't be too surprised to read headlines like this. Callous arsonist stands and watches as tiny library burns to the ground. From this to this. And books stolen from Little Phone Box Library stolen and burnt by vandals in Whitstable. Before, after. And within school, students will even go out of their way to target those that perform well in school.
14-year-old Gabby was elected head girl last month. Since then, she's been bullied by a group of girls who used to be her close friends.
She's been remarkably focused. I look at the difficulties that she's had. She's not the norm, I would say. You know, that's quite a remarkably strong girl.
Question 82. Which deadly disease returned to Europe in the 17th century? Anyone?
The plague.
Plague.
Gabby is just the ultimate do the right thing student who just gets on with it. You know, if you could bottle her and copy her for everyone else, that'd be absolutely fantastic. Unfortunately, one of the problems that young people who choose to be perfectly behaved and totally focused and work hard face is that some young people don't like it. They don't like the fact that they are being shown up to not be hardworking enough. And as we know, they will turn on the person who they see as the goody two-shoes, as they see as the person who will do all the right things. And that, that's something that's gone on since time immemorial.
Overnight, there's been a worrying development for Gabby. As she was going to bed, and this morning, she received several text messages from an unknown number.
I didn't know who it was. Then, just as I was about to get dressed, they sent another, and I was like, oh no, they're watching me or something.
I predict in as little as 1 to 2 generations, virtually every doctor in professional England will be born outside of England. They will all be from China, India, Pakistan, Egypt, Japan, you name it. Just not England. The sight of an English doctor in England will be extremely rare. And we're already seeing the fruits of this. According to a journal article titled Ethnic Profile of the Doctors in the United Kingdom, the percentage of non-white doctors among the UK graduates has increased substantially, from about 2% in 1974 to almost 30% by 2005. The ethnic profile of students entering the medical school is different from that of the university-age population, with white men underrepresented and Asian men and women overrepresented. White men now comprise little more than a quarter of all medical students in the United Kingdom, but 44% of the university-age population. A recent study calculates a 10-fold difference in standardized admission ratios by ethnicity. If I wasn't a teacher, I'd be shocked by this. But knowing how lazy, irresponsible, undisciplined, and desperate not to learn English kids are, this is no surprise. In a 2012 book titled Britannia Unchained, there is an interesting quote about the English work ethic.
The British are among the worst idlers in the world. We work among the lowest hours, we retire early, and our productivity is poor. Whereas Indian children aspire to be doctors or businessmen, the British are more interested in football and pop music.
Matches what I've seen, but that's 2012. In 2024, we read, frustrated businesses seek staff abroad as Britons abandon work. Businesses have become frustrated with trying to hire British workers and are increasingly looking abroad to fill vacancies, the National Institute of Economic and Social Research has warned. I have never had students who value their education so little. Let me give you one of my more striking examples. Oftentimes, my students will learn about water scarcity and how in countries like Kenya, girls will often spend 8 hours a day just walking to collect dirty water. A task so arduous and time-consuming, they sacrifice going to school and getting an education just to have enough time to collect this water. I've made this point in geography classes in Australia, New Zealand, Abu Dhabi, and England. Only English kids responded by saying, just take my place. I hate your school. I don't even want to be here. A complete and utter lack of appreciation for the blessings they have. They have no value for their education, no ambition, and are the whiniest, most self-victimizing people you will ever teach. If they earn a consequence for misbehavior, they suddenly act like they did absolutely nothing, having no clue what they did, and start cursing the school, all teachers, their lives, claim victim status, and it's just so pathetic.
Let's have a little talk here. On the 20th, you're running around at lunchtime, ignoring people. Then you had an issue with PE and you got placed outside of Miss York's room there. Then you're hiding behind a fridge. Then within 2 minutes of that, you've walked out up onto the top yard and you've had a fight. There's 4 incidents in one day.
If you just give us an insight, though, just give us a reason why, maybe we can help.
When you're in the class.
You go where you're damn told.
I'm not.
Caden.
I'll go and see Mr. Hastings.
I'll smack you. Yeah.
Right. Just let me go grab some tissues. I'll be 1 second, kid. All right, here.
No, everywhere I go, it feels like I'm getting picked on by teachers. And when it's my first lesson, I get told off for nothing.
Caden, bag on the floor, please. Caden, your bag is still on your back. Get it on the floor now. Caden, bag on the floor. I've already asked you. On the floor. No, on the floor, otherwise I'm going to have to remove you. Simple as that. On the floor. Right, date and title on, everyone, please. What kind of programme?
My chair like that.
One more and I'll ask you to lead the lesson.
Just told me to put my bag on the chair.
You're interrupting me and you're shouting out of turn. That behaviour's not... Right, outside. I've given you your warnings. If you go, Miss, would you mind radioing to get someone to pick Caden up, please?
Imagine a student disrupting the class. Then imagine they get called out by the teacher for being disruptive and receiving a warning. The way they react, as if they had no idea why they got in trouble is fascinating. But it's not exactly lying.